We are beginning our sculpture project. We're going to be creating an armature out of tinfoil and tape, covering it with plaster, and then painting it or adding all kinds of amazing designs. So what is a sculpture? It is a three-dimensional object, which means you can walk around it. It's not flat. Pretty much as long as there have been humans, we have made sculptures that look like humans, including these prehistoric sculptures, these terracotta army men from ancient China. An emperor built them to guard his grave. This is the Winged Victory, a Greek statue, which inspired another famous statue, Michelangelo's David in the Renaissance. There's also, as we get into modern times, Edgar Degas' Little Dancer, a very famous sculpture. There's Giacometti and his very thin post-World War II figures. We've got, on the other extreme, NIKI de Saint-Phal and her generous, joyous figures. And now we're at a point where almost anything goes. There's so much out there. If you can imagine it, someone has made it. Today, you are going to make pretty much anything you want as long as it is human-ish in shape. Oh, and these are sound suits by the artist Nick Cave. We're going to talk all about him and his work next class. Part 1, you will all make an armature. An armature is the inside of a sculpture, kind of like a skeleton. You'll each get a piece of tinfoil, cut it on the 5 lines. Then you kind of fold up the pieces like this, so you've got 2 arms, 2 legs, and something like a head. Take the whole thing and kind of squeeze it and crunch it together until you get something that looks like a little tinfoil dude or dudette. Now, if something falls off, like an arm or a leg, or your head is tiny, don't worry about it. You're going to use tape and more tinfoil to just buff this thing up and reattach. There's 2 ways to attach more. You can take more tinfoil, kind of make bands out of it, and wrap it around. You can also add masking tape, and that will attach things. Try making X's. If you crisscross through the armpits and the leg pits and the neck, that'll be the strongest thing you can do. Then you're going to add some bulk. Do you want your guy or your gal or your whatever to have a big head like mine? If you do, throw some newspaper or a paper towel or something in there for even bigger shape and add more tinfoil. Remember to keep squeezing everything so that it is strong. If you want it to have big arms or shoulders like an action figure or a football player, you can add more stuff around the top. You can add little balls to the arms or to the legs to buff those out too. And if you want anything with animal ears or an animal tail, just go for it by adding more tinfoil and squeezing tight until you get the shape that you want. Last, bend the arms, bend the legs until it's kind of standing up and choose a pose. This is important because when we add plaster, you are stuck with the pose you choose. Once you've made your armature, part 2 is to add plaster. This is the same stuff you would get if you broke your arm and got a cast. Take 1 plaster strip at a time, dip it in a water cup, and then you're going to use your 2 fingers to squeegee out the extra water. If it's too wet, it's just gross. Then you are going to wrap it around every single part of your sculpture. I think it helps to hold it tight with one hand while you wrap with the other. Last, you're going to take your fingers and you're going to smooth it out. Make sure to get those hard to reach spots between the arms and the body and the legs and the body. Continue this process until your entire sculpture is covered with plaster. Feel free to help a friend if you finish early. Get those pesky joints, smooth it out completely, and when you are done, please write your name on a scrap of paper, put your work on your tray, and put your tray in the drying area.